Hey, what's up, everybody? Good to be back. We had an exciting weekend in Battle Hardened, Chicago. Gonna go over a little bit what happened and talk a little bit about it. We're gonna do our token turn autofocus off. That's how we have to start every stream. One of these days, I'm gonna do it before I begin. But until that day, there you go. I'm getting quick about it though. I will give myself that. Obviously, if you've been engaged in the Fab community in any way, shape, form, or fashion, we did have the departure of the Tall Timmy, aka Paul. Super unfortunate, but life happens, and sometimes you have to make certain priorities, and we can all understand that. So whatever he is going through, hope he is perfectly okay, and hope he excels at whatever is next. And I'm not gonna stay too long on the subject. Everybody's been hashing out about it and everything, but um, he typically hops in here for these streams. And Paul, if you do see this, just you know, I hope all is the best and best luck in whatever comes next. Paul's energy, like it was truly amazing. The energy he brought to his videos, that level of energy can't be faked or not be natural in any way. He had a true passion for the game. So once again, thoughts are out there for you, Paul, and hope all is well. So this weekend, we got in a car full of buddies and went to Battle Hard in Chicago. I played Briar. I tried to you know get her out of the door, if you will, and I was unsuccessful in doing so. I ended up X2 and just bubbled out. I ended up finishing 10th. Um, Lost out due to breakers. I think there was 2 or 3 X2s that made it. Was kind of shocked in the results because I lost round 5 and 7, and both people I lost against were in the top 4. So I was like, man, those are like really good breakers, but Jim is gonna do what Jim does. I'm not gonna say I'm not complaining in any way or to saying it's like a flaw or anything. I'm just I don't know how that algorithm works, and I'm not gonna suggest changes on anything that I have no clue how it works. So it just didn't work out, and that happens. That happens. Overall, it was a good tournament. Like I said, 10th. We did have the one stream game against Evisceri. I had a lot of fun during that match. Really great guy. Um, had a lot of fun talking after, before. It was also a very interesting match, and kind of shows how, if you just stick to the value game plan, how much Briar can really pay off without getting a Channel Aruk. So, great experience overall at the event. Ended up doing the PTI event as well. We had a little fire alarm fiasco in between. um, Most of this is like, I'm gonna go ahead and plug our podcast, Breakpoints. If you haven't checked that out, please go and do so. There's some funny stories that we get into during the podcast with the group. If you're interested in hearing those, feel free to go over there and give it a listen. It's definitely worth it, I promise you. So, what I wanted to do for the stream today was 2 things. I want to talk a little bit about the possibilities that exist within calling Birmingham, as far as like meta shifts, changes, whatever the case may be, because it's kind of an important point. It's our first like calling level or higher event since the Dusk Till Dawn cards were released. It's also important because I think players have now had time to kind of like play around certain strategies, like maybe warmongers or whatever the case may be. They've had enough time to kind of adapt to said, strategies, and I think that calling Birmingham will reflect something very different than the 2 battle hardens. I think it's actually going to be very, very different. I'll get into why I think that. We will also go. Let me go ahead. And there were a couple people asking about the Briar list that I took. So I'm going to go ahead and show that. Real quick. Just to give everybody an idea of what I was playing for the Battle Harden. Let's go ahead and show screen. Okay, so this is the list that I took to Battle Harden Chicago. Nothing like too crazy. If you've seen the next or the last stream, you saw the Seek Horizons, and then I was trying that out. It overperformed. Didn't really activate it too many times, but when I did, it really paid off. So really, really happy about that choice specifically. Nimble Strike performed pretty well. Would definitely never go to 2 of those, but the one of definitely worth it. The best card of the weekend, 100%, not even close, Entwine Lightning. Entwine Lightning, I know it doesn't happen often, but with the 2 press, you can actually get it off a little. I think with just the surges in, I think it's like a 13.5% chance that you can draw it with the surge, and then if you arsenal it, it's about a 20% chance to draw a lightning card. So it's not the highest percentage. I mean, it's not like Sonata level, consistency, if that's even a term that should be used together. But just the fact that it happens that little bit can give you enough edge to close the game out. If I wasn't able to fuse that, I would have definitely lost the Viscera game. So really, really good card there. The one pre-med, it was mid. It didn't really do anything great. Didn't really do anything bad. The Talismans of Warfare, it was great in testing before the event. I only resolved 1. And when I resolved it, I was already ahead in the match. So it wasn't that it was bad. It just didn't see any play. And then that's about it. The Lightning Presses were pretty good. I didn't play them in that many matchups because I didn't play against any Icelanders. It did come into play against Dromai. And it overperformed. Used 1 as a popper. Did not get the fancy, they block with the flicker trick, and then you kind of like pop the flicker trick. That unfortunately did not happen, but everything performed pretty well. Nothing else. The chess piece is amazing. What can I say? The extra block, just too good. Just to go over my matchups real quick. I played round 1 a Lexi. It was a more ice variant. Just played kind of defensively. Just played the value game. Didn't let the on hits go through. And we got there, and then I played a Katsu. It was the same Katsu that top 8'd the PTI. Dan, sorry, I don't remember the last name, but he's on Team Ascent Min-Max team, and played that one. He's been playing Ninja for a long time, so he played it very, very well. Just used the abundance of armor that Runeblade now has to kind of invalidate the Mask of Momentum and just turn it into just 2 block. I think he only truly threatened Mask like one, or got resolved Mask 1 time, and it was at the end of a chain, so it drew like a random card. Other than the next match was against it was a stream match. It was the Viscera one, so we got that one. If you want to watch that, feel free to look at the coverage. And then round 4, we get dumpstered by the top seed undefeated Lexi. The game was not close. In 3, what, 4 turns. He played 3 codexes, a 3 of a kind, and 2 rain razors. I mean, it just it was not a close game. The life was close at the end, but I know that it was not a close game. So he definitely got that one. He played it great though. He played it. My only out during that game was him making a mistake, and he didn't make it. So hats off to him, and he performed well overall at the tournament. Congrats to Hunter there. Then at this point in the tournament, after 4 rounds, we had only resolved 1 channel mount heroic, and it was against Hunter. So the match that we got the channel mount heroic was the match we actually lost. The other 3, I did not resolve a single one. Then I play against a Dromai, and I played a channel mount heroic, got the force of nature, did Briar things, and just kind of high rolled my way out of that one. It was too early in the game to kind of determine whether I needed it, whether it changed the outcome of the game or whatever the case may be. Because it was literally like turn 3. It was like a 10-minute game. And yes, we took that one down. And then we played another Dromai. It was the Dromai that made it to the finals. And he played amazing. He just played perfect. I did not. There were 1, maybe 2 spots where I could have taken a more optimal line. And I mentioned it to him during the game, and I was as I was doing the line, I was like, man, this is not it. But other than that, interesting match, because hats off to him for doing this. He actually said when he sat down, he's like, hey man, I watch your streams. We had that whole conversation. And at the end of the match, he goes, yeah, I actually took my Warmonger's diplomacy out of my deck because I knew you had all the tech for it, so I didn't think it was going to be impactful. And like, no shade at that, because like that's really smart. He used information that he had, and like, hats off to him. So he went on to make it to the finals and earn that PTI. So congrats. And then the last game we played against was that the last game? I don't remember what round we're on. But, oh, no, we played a dash. We played against a fatigue dash. And we got there. We almost didn't because we bricked. I whiffed on, I paid 4 into 1 Sonata, got 1 card, and then paid 2 into the next Sonata and completely whiffed. I mean, it was just, and then 2 channel mount heroic turns. We drew all non-attacks. It was not where we wanted to be, but that happens, and no way we can kind of avoid that. And then I played a fatigue Bravo, and as you can see, I don't have any rights of replenishment, and the match resulted in, shout out to Lucas. He's also a Briar player, and I actually ended up fatiguing him. And I just did it by, swing Rosetta Thorn literally as many times as I possibly could. Every single hand I drew my cards, and I said, what is the cheapest way as far as like cards out of deck that I can swing Rosetta Thorn turned on this turn? And I just did that 30 times and closed the game out. At the end of it, I think I had about 10 cards left in deck. So we had a good bit of cushion thanks to So Tomorrow and things of that nature. So overall, great tournament. Had a good time. If you were there, thanks for saying hi. If you did, I really do appreciate it. Means the absolute world. Did you see they're adding Briar to Fortnite? Thanks, Donkel. Appreciate you. I need to go to Melbourne, but it's a little far. It's a little far, Donkel. I'd love to, though. I would love to. Maybe you should just come to the U.S. You should play in like the U.S. calling in Vegas. Swing on over. All right. So today's topic is kind of like three parts. What I wanted to kind of discuss was I want to talk about the four things, the four ingredients of that all the top decks in the meta currently, in the battle hardened meta, if you will, what they all have in common, and kind of how can we leverage that, basically, and kind of like either come up with answers against it or use some of those ingredients and kind of apply it to like our list that we're playing that maybe not might not be those heroes to kind of end up with a similar performance from our deck list. And then I'm gonna kind of explain my thought process after that on how I think the current meta is nowhere near what I think the Calling Birmingham meta will be. Um, let's see, we got a question. How were the Vinsets that did show up? Did any of them talk to? I watched a lot of them. Half of Team Runaway was running the Pummel Vincent basically, and it was good. Let me. It was good enough to perform a at a battle harden, right? Um, if you took that list to a calling, unless there's something that I'm missing, I just don't see it. I really don't. Um, and I kind of heard Cody Williams talking a little bit. He was like, "Yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to take the opportunity to play it because it was kind of like one of the really good chances to actually get some games with it." So hopefully, while they were playing in the battle harden, hopefully they found ways to improve on it or things like that, and can actually get the deck to a really high level. But currently, it's like I said, it's not the worst deck in the world. But if somebody fundamentally understands what Vincent's trying to do, it's very easy to combat it. And um, for those of you who don't know, it's you just don't partake in the tempo game, right? You just let her do her own thing, and as long as you have AB, you'll be fine. She has to bleed herself out or run herself out of cards, and that's kind of I'm assuming that's why they incorporated pommel and things of that nature. Um, but it kind of depends on what your deck has the capability to do, and then kind of deleveraging their ability to utilize creepers is the main thing. So let's go ahead and talk about the four ingredients of what all the top decks in the current battle hardened mana share or have in common, right? So the first one's going to be the most obvious. They're consistent, right? And what decks am I talking about? Let's go over that first. Well, of course we have Icelander, we have Dromai, we have Lexi, and then number 4 would probably have to be uh, Levia, right? Would probably get the fourth spot. So those 4 decks, they're all consistent, right? Everybody knows Icelander is just known for it. When 90% of your deck is blue, and you're perfectly fine utilizing those blues for offense, it leads to consistency, right? Now let's go to Lexi. Lexi, if you build your deck in a kind of, if Lexi is built in a very fuseless manner, she can be very, very consistent and have good damage output. Dromai, all your cards are red. If that's not consistent, I don't know what is. But on a more serious note, other than like drawing all dragons and not having Ash, there's not real hard bricks for a Dromai hand. And if that happens at the first turn of the game, then yes, it's very unfortunate. But if it happens at a later point in the game, then you didn't really do your Ash management properly. So if it happens later in the game, that's kind of on you. Nick said, Gottlieb said Prism and Vinsent are super powerful and haven't been solved yet. Are you guys working on cracking the code? Well, not currently. I am not at this moment investing more time into Vinsent. Now that's I'm not refusing to do so in the future. Basically, what I'm waiting on is to like see a card that see a card that kind of changes my mentality on a certain strategy within that deck. But other than that, yeah, Prodigy, absolutely. You have the secret mitts to fix it if it's your turn, right? You can also do it on your opponent's turn as well. Did you talk about Briar at all? Do you think she'll show up and convert at the calling? I think she'll show up, but I do not think she'll convert. That is my opinion, and I'll explain that. I'll explain that as well. So on the fact that Gottlieb said Prism and Vinsent are super powerful and haven't been solved yet. So there's a lot of things that you have to divvy up within that one statement, right? One, you have to set your definition of what is powerful, right? Are we saying to be a powerful deck you have to be tier 0? Or are we saying that to be a powerful deck you have to be playable in any meta? And I don't get me wrong, Vinsent does some. I can't really speak for Prism. I haven't spent hardly any time in that deck. I've talked to like people that have, and they feel like they're making strides, but every time they try to kind of show it, it kind of falls through, unfortunately. But Vinsent does some powerful things, and I think I don't know. Is Vinsent powerful? I mean, you could word it that way. Like she does powerful things. Playing one card for 6 damage and a rune chant value wise is good. It is great. It is powerful, if that's the word that you want to use. That being your only play when you have 4 cards in hand in an arsenal is not powerful, right? So I'm not going to say that I disagree with him, but I will say that, the definitions of powerful could be different. I don't think Vinsent is a top tier meta deck. I just don't. I would love to be wrong. Nothing would make me happier than me being wrong. But I don't think that we have ever had a deck in Flesh and Blood that forced you to do something every single turn. Right? Have we had any hero with that type of mechanic? I'm trying to think of one that forces you to do something that could be perceived as negative every single turn. I don't think there is. And maybe it's just taking the community a lot longer to solve it. But currently, unless I get an idea that kind of like sparks something, I'm not investigating Vinsent any further. If something comes along, the stream will be the first people to find out. Let's see. I doubt Prism will be good. Her weapon is doo-doo. It costing 2 is unfortunate. But it is what it is. Like I said, I don't have too. I am starting to like look into Prism, kind of like understand what's happening there. I just haven't. I haven't gotten enough time with it yet to justify any type of opinion. Because I mean, as you guys know, I have no problem with putting out my opinion and it being wrong, aka Icelander. even though, spoiler alert for the future discussion, I'm doubling down on the fact that Icelander is not a good deck in this meta, and I will explain why. Although Ray has been killing it, and hats off to her. I just do not think it's the correct deck because people have not had time to adapt, but I believe for calling Birmingham, they will have had said time. So let's see. Let me get caught up. Vinsent is B tier, but has the potential to be A tier in the right hands. So, Justin, you have to be careful when you because let's take Michael Hamilton, right, or Brody Spurlock, and let's give them Phi in this meta or something. Like, could they perform with it? Sure. But just because they can perform with it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a strong deck or it's A tier. It just means that that person with that performance and that knowledge of the deck could perform at a certain level, right? Just because Josh can perform at an A tier level with Dorinthea does not in any way make Dory an A tier hero. It means that at its absolute peak, that's its apex. And Matt, you said it very well. Vinsent gets the Runeblade hands, but the problem I have with Vinsent is you don't have the extreme upside, right? You have all the same risk associated with being a Runeblade, but your payoff is like basically you don't have to have a blue. Like that's the huge payoff, not a 15 damage cash in turn or 30 damage cash in turn or a 24 damage channel mount heroic turn, whatever the case may be. You know, you're taking on all that risk just so you don't have to pitch a damn blue. And currently it just isn't doing it for me. It is not. Data doll, that's a fact. That's a fact. Arachne forces you to look at your hero every turn and realize you didn't play Azuri. That's a fact, Nick. That is a that's a very good point. Although there was one Arachne that was actually floating around the top tables in Battle Hardened, at the Battle Hardened Chicago, which was very interesting. So the first thing after I kind of sidebarred with chat there, first thing I named was consistency, right? The second is you need to have the ability of burst damage. Okay, so let's look at all the decks, right? With Levia, you have the ability to have big burst turns with Blood Rush Bellow, right? Most of the time, you just want to put that bad boy in Arsenal, maybe your second one, wait for your Blasphemette transformation, and then utilize your cards in the Banish Zone, along with, with your Dread Screamers or whatever the case may be, and then utilize the Blood Rush Bellow along with those cards for like one final push turn. And you have Lexi, 3 of a kind Rain Razors. Obviously, she has so much burst potential with Codex. No need to say anything kind of there. And then you have Icelander. Icelander doesn't necessarily... She has burst, but it's all in one turn, and it can happen at any moment, so it's good enough, right? So, like, is it as much value as a Blood Rush Bellow or a 3 of a kind? Absolutely not. But you kind of cheat the turn cycle mechanic within the game anytime you pop Storm Striders, which is a huge advantage, and I would qualify as said burst. Dromai, if you leave the board state unchecked, that's a whole lot of burst, right? Anytime you can play a Rabble and then follow it with another 8 damage that's already on the board is very, very good. The third thing is on hit effects or disruption, which could be intertwined, obviously. Right. That's what I was... Okay, that's what you meant, Justin. Yep. Yeah, overall B tier. Yeah. B tier hero. And that's okay. Like, I don't think there's any situation where like she has to be good, right? I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. The issue for her, trading life and power for consistency, but without 2 rune chance men. Yep. Difference between Rune Gate 2 and Rune Gate 3 is astronomical. That's the very first thing that I discovered with Vinsent, and that's what I really wanted to express during the stream. For anybody building it, your Rune Gate 3 cards have to really be doing something amazing to warrant putting them in. Yeah, so on-hit effects and disruption is our third category of ingredients in the top 4 decks currently. And this can be seen by... The only exception here would be Levia, right? Which we'll save for last. But like Dromai, she has board presence, which is inadvertent disruption, right? The idea of... The fundamental concept of disruption in a TCG like Flesh or Blood is basically forcing your opponent to interact with you. Whatever the on-hit is, or whatever the case may be, is so impactful that you're forcing the opponent to interact with you. Or it could be mechanically forcing them to interact with you, like Winter's Bites, Frost Bites, whatever the case may be. But on-hit effects can be disruption because you're forcing the opponent to interact with your cards. And Dromai gets a board state, and if you don't interact with that board state, she will get an extreme amount of value, which is the exact same thing as an on-hit effect. So that's, you know, one thing to kind of keep in mind there, or one way to look at it. So she definitely has that property. Lexi, obviously, like I said there in the podcast, she has arrows that will ruin your credit on hit, make it where you can't get a mortgage. I mean, just there's on hits for everything, right? And you know, codex forcing you to discard. I mean, there's so many things that Lexi can do on the on hit / disruption field. Then you have Icelander. Icelander, that's her whole mechanic, right? Trying to extract as much value from one frostbite as she possibly can during your turn. Discard effects, the works, right? She does it all. Then lastly, the one that actually doesn't have any of those properties is Levia. Levia doesn't really have any on-hit effects or reasons to like force you to interact with her. The reason why I could still consider her is because she has the unique ability to have so much of a fridge that she is almost immune for a few turns to the other opponent's on hit and disruption effects, right? Which I value the same. If I have the ability to present on hit effects and disruption, if I had the same situation but I could just ignore the opponents, I consider that equal in value, depending on what the on hits are and how much you can prevent. But with Grasp, that's 2. Then the feet, you have 3 more armor. That's 5. Plus the headpiece is 7. Then Carrion Husk is 13 armor that you have available. So you're starting at 53 life. Okay. And you can kind of... And the great part about her is, right, she can kind of block as long as she has picked the point to where she starts pivoting on offense, which happens way earlier now than it used to. She can kind of block with Carrion Husk whenever she wants. And that's you know, that's a huge advantage to be able to use the Carrion Husk whenever you want, not just when you approach that 13 life threshold. Let me get caught up on chat. She has some potential Eloquence tokens, feel abusable, but maybe only future karma. The only interaction that I've found interesting with Eloquence token is theoretically you can utilize creepers while the Eloquence token is on the stack. It works the same way as a Frostbite token does, and it applies to everything on the stack. Or it's still within the board state. What do I mean? Well, let's say you play something that triggers the Eloquence token. you could then flash in with creepers and attack like or non-attack like Tome of Findel, right? And you have the ability or the the first attack gains go again from the Eloquence token. The Eloquence token goes on the stack as a trigger. And then you can respond to that and put the tome onto the stack. And it will also gain go again. You get double action points, basically. It's kind of the same interaction where you can play a revel, respond, and play another revel, and then they see each other. It's kind of that same interaction. So it definitely have that ability to. That's the only kind of like neat interaction that I found with the Eloquence token. It is super situational because all of that is, dependent on you already played an attack, right? Because you have to turn on creepers, which is not the cheapest thing to do. And then you need to play, you need to have all that stuff, have the pitch and all that stuff. So, a lot hanging on that situation, but it is interesting. Yeah, Aaron said it very well. You can play multiple non-attacks as long as it's an instant speed. You get multiple action points. We got DM Armada. Welcome. Thank you for the coverage. Amazing job as always, and congrats on the 14K subs. Hopped in there for a little bit and saw you opening packs with the wife. That's awesome. Congrats on the milestone. He thought that calling Birmingham was in Alabama. Oh, my bad, bro. My bad. My bad. Yep, Funeral Moon's a great use for that as well. The only problem is like in what situation are you do you have enough card economy to play an attack, pitch for creepers, play multiple non-attacks to gain action points, to then like you had to you needed the action points for something, right? And so like what are you doing after that is the big question. I just that seems like kind of like magical Christmas land. I'm not sure. It's definitely like very niche, but that's the like I said, that's the only like interaction that I've seen that was kind of neat, or I don't know. So we thought the calling was in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, I live about an hour and a half from Birmingham, Alabama. So I wish, but I don't think LSS would ever put a calling in Birmingham, Alabama, because that would be very unfortunate for a lot of people traveling. Tickets would be super expensive. It's a city, but it's not like a city, right? What's an on hit if they're dead already? I love that coding. Her on hit effect is death. That's what it is. Talking about what, yeah. So DM Armada, just get you caught up. We're just talking about the like 4 ingredients about what all the top 4 decks kind of share. The first one was consistency, then burst damage, and now we're talking about on hits and disruption. Yep, multiple attack, Funeral Moon. Yep, absolutely. Yep, it's all about the setup. Absolutely. I agree. I definitely agree. Okay, so for the 4th one, we have, which kind of goes along with the burst damage, is you need to have a natural answer. Keyword natural answer to fatigue. Okay, and I know on this channel we talk about fatigue a lot because I just hate it, right? And I like anytime I build a deck, that's the first thing that I solve is like how to beat that. And the reason I say that is because Lexi is such a heavy presence in the meta currently. And there's a lot of decks that the only way they stand a chance at winning that matchup is via fatigue. So if if a deck has so many sideboard slots dedicated to that, then any deck that deck could also fatigue, a lot of people are more inclined to be attempting that, which is why I ran into 2 fatigue matches during my Battle Harden. A Tree Frog Dash and a Fatigue Bravo with like a whole bunch of life gain. I think at the end of turn 8, he was still at 36. He had so much life gain. But yeah. Armor hit Goopoo this Friday. Does Rhinar do anything against slower Dromai and Icelander decks? Any place in the meta? So that's very interesting. That if you saw the tier list that I did, I placed Rhinar a lot higher than most people did, and that was kind of my thought process. Was I believed the meta would slow down astronomically, and Rhinar was a good answer for that. Was my thought process. Not sure if, and I'm not going to say that I'm right or wrong about that because the meta is still unfolding, right? We haven't even had our first calling yet. It's right around the corner. This is our first true indication. The reason why battle hardens are important, and in no way would I ever try to downplay, battle hardens, but you have to keep in mind that for a battle harden, I would make the argument that probably half of the battle harden, half of their attendance is due to locality, right? There's not too many people, except crazy people like me, that would drive 10 hours to Chicago or fly to go to most battle hardens. There's the true grinders like Brody, Michael Fang, and a lot of people like that. But that only makes up like 15, 20 people in the room, right? Most people are only driving a couple hours. So you're getting a lot of locality, right? Which will skew the results, right? And whereas a calling, a lot more people, one, you have more people, right? I would hope more people are going to calling Birmingham than the battle hardens. And we'll have more data points. And then also we will have, a lot more data from places that are not local, which is very important because most local players know each other, know their tendencies, know how to sideboard, and that can affect your results. There's also an argument to be made that people won't be playing what they think is best because they want their tech secret for Nats and Worlds. That's completely true as well. That's a great point. I got a defensive FI list kind of in the lab right now. I'm not at the point to where I feel like good enough to share it because it's not completely done. But I'm sure everybody kind of has something that they're working on, and yeah, I really think that the calling Birmingham is going to yield very different results than the battle harden. So those are the ingredients, I think, my opinion, of course. But those are kind of like what I think all of them share. And then, so one thing that I wanted to do real quick was kind of go over things that I would be looking out for every hero that I would be playing. Or not, sorry. I want to go over every single hero and what I would be looking out for those potential heroes if they were going to the calling in Birmingham. So let's go ahead and bring that up. Just have a simple list of heroes. I just want to start from the top down. And like I said, just go over, if I was bringing Arachne, what are some of the things that I'm trying to answer? What are the questions I'm trying to demand from my opponent, right? And kind of go hero by hero and go over every single one of them. So that way, if you do plan on going to an event soon, maybe I can. I'm not going to be able to give you every single answer because I don't have them, but maybe I can say something that kind of spurs a thought and kind of leads you to something. which I hope everybody can do. What tips would you give to someone going to their first battle hardened? That's a fantastic question. And give me 1 second. Did you see? Yes, I actually talked to the Tower Shark guy in his defensive 5 deck. It's very different than mine, but I saw him and I was like, bro, I love it. And he goes, yeah, man, you inspired me. And I was like, oh, man, that's super cool. But I talked to him and like, yeah, it was super cool to see him. And he was doing great. He was doing very well. So tips for someone going to their very first battle hardened. Well, it depends on what your goal is as a player. Okay. Because there's obviously multiple degrees of players, right? And I'm not saying one's right, wrong, whatever, but you have like people that are more on the casual side, you have people that are extremely on the competitive side, and then you kind of have people right in the middle, right? So if it was my first battle harden, unless you're somebody with like years and years of prior TCG experience, like super competitive TCG experience, I think it's kind of a letdown if you kind of walk in expecting to perform very, very well, right? Not saying that you can't. I'm just saying that you shouldn't go in there with that expectation. What I did, let me walk you through my process. My very first event that was like RTN or higher was 2021 Nats. That was the first event that I went to that was more than 30 people. It was actually the first like large card tournament I've ever been to. And my number one goal was to learn at that event. I said, no matter what happens here, I just want to learn as much as possible. When I sat down at the draft table day one at that Nationals, I didn't know how to draft. I literally sat down and asked him, which way are we passing these packs? Because I had no clue. And at the end of the day, I was super fortunate and ended up finishing like 20th at US Nats out of about 600 people or so. So I was lucky to have a very good performance. But at the same time, I was playing to extract as much information about the game as possible. And so to give you a more accurate answer, more direct answer, I would, first of all, as far as deck selection, I would play a list that forces you to make as many decisions without it being too tedious. Right? So let me give you a good example. I played Briar. Briar, surprise, right? So Briar's a good example because she can be very offensive, but then she could leverage her embodiments and be very defensive, right? So I was very active during both phases of the game, both offense and defense, aka my turn, my opponent's turn. I was very engaged, right? Kano is that to the extreme, right? Kano is very complex. Would never recommend that for your first event. But Briar is a good example of, making conscious decisions on both sides of the game and learning as much as possible on both sides. Whereas you take a deck like Talishar Boost Dash, right? Where it's just, I'm trying to get them to 0. If they beat me, then they beat me, right? You're only... I hate to say it, but you're kind of only playing half the game in that situation, so you're not going to be learning as much. So play a deck that you enjoy, but try to play a deck that operates on both sides of the game so you can learn as much as possible from that event and have a good time. Number one thing. My first was 2022 Nats, and I've been playing card games for 9 years. I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I walked into that room and I saw all those people playing cards, and I was like, it was amazing. It It was so amazing. Just walking in there, had such a good time. One of my favorite tournaments I've ever played because I played so many matches against people I had no idea who they were until later down the line. I played people like Dan Rakowski and Chris Lyali and I just so many like solid players that just eventually had their story told, and it was super exciting to get that opportunity. And yeah, it was a great tournament. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into the heroes and kind of talk about if I was playing this hero, what are some questions that you need to answer via sideboarding, complete deck reconstruction, whatever the case may be. So Arachne, chat's already said it. You need to ask yourself why you're not playing this hero, Azuri, right? You literally need to answer that question. I'm not saying it to be mean, right? But you have to say, what is the value from being able to look at your opponent's cards on the top of their deck? What strategy can you employ that makes that effect better than basically making all your on hits hit, right? I think that's a very valid question. I've always said that the most complex thing about Arachne specifically is his hero ability. I think the most things that the highest EV you can extract from Arachne is his hero ability. Which basically means you need to know so much about your opponent's deck and what it's trying to do that you need to know if you look at a card within a split second, you need to make a decision on whether that card goes to the bottom or the top and how that could possibly affect them. Let me give you an example. Say you're playing against Runeblade, right? We'll say Briar is an example. You look at the top card, it's an attack. Me being a Briar player, this thing I would be scared of the most is you putting the attack on the bottom so that way there's a higher chance that I can brick, right? But if you don't have a lot of knowledge about Runeblade, you're not going to be able to make that decision, right? You're going to look at the top card, you're going to say, this isn't Channel Mount Heroic, leave it on top, right? And there's just so many, decisions that you have to weigh. But I think the opt is where you get all of the value from Arachne. Obviously, your weakest matchups are going to be Dromai and Icelander. Unfortunately, unless you go like heavy on the blues, you're not going to be able to solve it. The problem is you have a little bit of sideboard space, but you're not going to be able to answer both. So you're going to have to pick one or the other, and I think you have to go with Dromai, which is actually the harder one because it's a lot easier to throw blues in your deck and then play a slow game against Icelander than it is to throw a bunch of go again into it. I went to 21 Nats, having only played 3 games of CC beforehand. Had a great day 1 and was top 31. Then got humbled against all the best players in Briars. Finished 107th. Oh man, yeah, it was. So I played Briar that tournament, but it was not the Cheerio Briar. I was way back then. I was on Channel Mount Heroic Briar. Still, I was running Skeleton in that meta just for the extra block. I was running my little carapace, if you will, and it was such a good tournament. I played Seek Horizon in that deck too. Nice little throwback. So we'll move on to Azalea, right? Once again, just like we talked about with the assassin, you need to answer the question, why are you playing Azalea over Lexi? Okay. Which is a lot easier question to answer than the assassin one, right? Because it's not almost strictly better in every way. Azalea kind of targets things very differently. For Azalea to function, there's no real way that you can actually tech for Icelander. You can't really tech for Icelander. So if you were in the active ranger decision, like which one you wanted to play, if you wanted to be stronger into Icelander, you can go Lexi, because you have the blues to actually compete with the disruption. Azalea, however, does have the ability to really put Dromai on the back foot and could actually perform a little bit better into that deck. It really just depends on how the deck's built. Obviously, Levi is the lead pioneer for Azalea, and anything he says as far as deck construction goes would have my vote. And yeah, some things that I would be looking out for is there anything that you could add to the deck to help hedge against Warmonger's diplomacy? Okay, so we obviously we can get very deep very quick in this discussion with Azalea, but we'll try to keep it surface level. But my first train of thought would be, how do I not get blown out by Warmonger's diplomacy? Because if everybody's running that card, there is actually no reason you'd be playing Azalea over Lexi. Because you're just creating a liability that doesn't need to be there, is basically what you're doing, which is very, very risky, right? So that would be my first train of thought. Now, how can we do that? Well, you basically only get destroyed if you arsenal pumps, right? So maybe there are certain changes you can make to your deck list that decrease the amount of pumps, but give you more like attack actions. I'm not saying that's the best Azalea, deck build. I'm just saying that that is an avenue you can explore to possibly come up with something, right? Maybe you can throw in Scar for Scars for extra go again because of an attack, right? And that gives you the ability to play your hand. Obviously, it would be a sideboard card, and you'd bring it in against people that that would run Warmongers. But I'm not saying that that's the correct take. I'm just trying to throw some things out there in some ways that I would approach it if I was deck building with that hero. Not saying everybody should run Scar for Scar in Azalea. Not saying it one bit. I'm just trying to vocalize my thought process on how I would start to solve that problem. Pumps going to Arsenal is the only way you get shut down by Warmongers. How can I avoid that? More attacks? Do I lose too much equity in other matchups because it takes away from my whole dominate game plan? You need to do that math and figure that out. But the number one thing is you need to come up with a plan for Warmongers. Bravo. Next deck. Bravo's easy. I don't know why this deck is not performing. I cannot answer that question because it's good into Dromai. It should be decent into Icelander. It theoretically should be good into Lexi. Like, you have disruption, right? You have the biggest fridge in the game, other than Levia. How are you not like at least okay in that matchup? But I guess the Bravo cards are such bad math that he just can't get there. But everything on paper says that Bravo should be performing well in this meta, right? All those decks that I named. Bravo's good into just about every one of them. Maybe not good, but at least evenly matched up or higher. That Earthlore Bravo at Chicago was kind of sick. Earthlore Bounty. Earthlore Bounty. I don't hate it, but man, I what cards are you're not running like Sift and stuff, are you? Yeah, I mean, I think that Bravo's biggest the difference. So Bravo and Icelander have the same or a very similar deck construction, right? They have a whole bunch of blues with a couple reds. The difference is Icelander doesn't need, or Icelander buys time with her other blues to get to her reds, whereas, which is a proactive strategy. Bravo's more reactive in a manner that he has to block with his crap blues when he doesn't have a red to throw, and he just does nothing, right? He just swings like 4 damage or whatever. So it's like not the best thing, right? And he also doesn't have the burst potential. Rouse is not burst. I don't care what you say. It's an efficient play. Yes, I will give it that. But it is not burst. So the biggest thing for Bravo is I don't know about Bravo. Like I said, everything checks out that deck should be performing. I do not know why it isn't. It should be doing well. Maybe we just need Kel McCreath. Maybe that's the answer. But the deck should be performing, but it is not. Good old Briar. We could go on forever about Briar, but the problem with Briar is you kind of don't have a very good reason to play her. So let's look at her matchup spread a little bit. I would say she's an underdog into Lexi. Not by like a whole lot. Probably 40-60, maybe 45-55. If you win the die roll, could get above 50-50 if you win the die roll and go second. Here's a secret. Not really a secret, but if you go second, you might can hedge it up a little bit, right? So, like, that's not a great matchup. Icelander also is not a great matchup. Is it as bad as it used to be? Obviously not. We've upped the blue counts. Most people are running anywhere between 19 and 21 blues. And you have the ability to slow down the pace of the game, force them to make tempo negative plays, aka play frost hex because they're worried about fatigue. And then, unlike Oldham back in the day, you can present big Bramble Spark turns and stuff like that to really pressure the life total, whereas Oldham would just throw Spinal Crush, right? So basically, we're using the image of fatigue as Icelander to seize free tempo is the idea. Against Dromai, ever since the inclusion of Lost in Thought, the matchup is I believe it to be still favored for Briar, but it's not by as much as it used to be. If I had to put a number on it, I would say it's probably 55-45. It also plays into the fact of what type of Dromai they're playing and things like that, and what kind of tech you have in the Briar deck to kind of combat it. But it's not particularly great, right? Then you have Levia. I don't think either one's particularly favored there either, right? So basically, why would you bring a deck unless you're me and you have a problem and you just can't get away from it? If you're not me, why would you bring a deck that is okay into most of the meta, but then loses to the biggest portion of the meta? Like it just doesn't make sense. You're not getting a whole lot of EV there, right? Oh, I'm almost basically these matchups are the same. They're just a little bit favorable, a little bit lower, and then here you're definitely unfavored. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then here you're probably 50-50. So it just doesn't make sense. I can't validate on why you bring it. But if there was a way to forfeit the Icelander matchup and then invest those slots into Lexi, I'd say that's your best shot in a big tournament. Just maintain the Dromai matchup where it is, invest everything into Lexi to try to shore it up. I did run the talisman, a couple talismans. They performed well in testing, but you know, it's something that Lexi's just too consistent, and all it takes is one slip up by Briar, and you're toast. Simple as that. So next one on the list is Dash. What would I be thinking if I was bringing Dash? Well, Dash is actually very interesting Unless the more aggressive she goes, the worse she is into Dromai. But I would argue the better she would be into Lexi, right? So, depending on whether you thought there would be more Lexis your tournament or Dromai would depend the speed of Dash. Either one, you can kind of handle Icelander as she comes. A couple sideboarding slots would be enough to handle this. You have natural AB2 in the headpiece, so this isn't a huge problem. You have free action points in the boots. You can probably get there against Icelander no matter what strategy you employ. But the biggest decision is the slower you go, the better you are in a Dromai, but the worse you'd be in the Lexi. Like Tree Fog is not good into Lexi. I don't think you can fatigue her with that deck. I could be wrong. Could you fatigue some Lexi? Sure, but we're talking about like top 8 calling level players. I don't think you're going to get away with that strategy within this deck list. So that would be my thought process. Do I want to target more Dromai and slow the game down, play more pistol, or do I want to, race and kind of stand a chance against Lexi? Maybe reincorporate the old Talishar again. It's been a while since we've seen that card incorporated with Dash. I don't think it's a horrible option. You also have the Hanabi Blaster as well. Could answer some questions there. Next, we have Dorinthea. Dorinthea is an interesting one because she needs the higher blue count for Icelander. The matchup for Icelander is not the worst. Also, Dash needs to go slower for Levia because if you race Levia, it'll just fatigue you. So I think she's kind of forced into a slower deck, which makes her unfavorable in the Lexi. Just thought about that. So back to Dory. Dory's a tricky one because I don't think your Lexi matchup is favored no matter what you do, whether you go defensive, offensive. I don't think the Decimator Great Axe is a particularly great deck. I did work on it a little bit. It's a fun deck to play. And it's a good way to check the skill of your opponent. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's extremely competitive. I think it's okay. It does good math things, but I don't think it's going to be winning any callings anytime soon. So I think the standard Dawnblade play is the way to go. Let's see. Brody Spurlock's Lexi list couldn't get fatigued by Oldham, so I don't think Dash can do it either. Great way to put it. Great way to put it. Dory, aka the queen of my dark horse tier. I don't know. I don't think the Dromai match is favored. I know the Lexi one isn't. Can she compete with both of them? Sure. But I don't think... I've talked to Josh a lot about the Dromai matchup, and the whole game is in the Dromai player's hands. If they play it correctly and they play very tight, it seems to be unfavored for Dory. Icelander's probably 50-50, and then Lexi, I think, is also unfavored. So you're just unfavored into what possibly could be the two most popular decks. And then you're running to the biggest fridge in the game. That's very bad, right? You do not want to. Also, the bag, the flesh bag, whatever the helmet's called for Levia, is insane against Dory, right? If Dory has one card in hand and it's the only missing piece of information, you block exactly 2 under, then throw the headpiece in there, and it happens before reactions. And the only way you get blown out is if it's like Iron Song Pride. And so it's super good because it triggers before you get into the reaction step, and she can't respond to it. So very, very good helmet piece. It kind of dunks on Dory a little bit. Plus you have Carrion Husk, and Carrion Husk is just too much value, right? So I don't know. The slower you play Dory, the more you give up the Dromai matchup. So I would be looking at ways. I don't think there's anything you can add to particularly help the Levia matchup. What I think you can do is put all your eggs in the Lexi and Dromai matchup, which is going to force you to be as aggressive as possible and steamroll those counters as hard as you possibly can. That's what I would be looking into for Dorinthea, and just trying to maximize on those two matchups. And these matchups are won and lost by aggression. Um, Aggression is everything from Dory into those two matches. Um, Leverage the fact that they preferably do not want to block. Most of the Dromais that we've been seeing are not Big Dragon. They're variants of Empress, aka Mara's List. So Dory can somewhat leverage that, and it does block a little worse, and kind of needs its hands for certain card combinations and stuff like that. So Dory can punish that. So Dromai. Dromai is an interesting one because I do think that Mara's List is the better list compared to Dromai, but it's a very good balancing. The Lexi dynamic is huge, right? Against historically, I believe Big Dragon has done better into Lexi. Obviously, Tumble Tie, the hat, go from there. The problem is, do you see Tumble Tie in the bottom half or the top half of your deck? And that kind of sways the matchup a whole bunch. So that's a very important aspect to keep in mind. Mara's List has a more consistent approach, one that you can kind of like outplay the way to it. I wouldn't say Dromai is unfavored. I would say that she's probably 50-50 to slightly favored into Lexi. The problem is the more aggressive the Dromai is, the worse your Icelander matchup gets. But the better your Levia matchup gets. So I think the faster Dromai list is 100% the way to go. And that's what I would just be seeing if there's any validity on adding one or two cards to help the Icelander matchup. I don't think it requires a huge investment. It could be like one Oasis, something like that. That could, or maybe it's not even Oasis. Maybe it's just the Mai. Maybe if you're not running any, maybe adding one or bumping it up to two, whatever the case may be, to kind of help that matchup if you need the help. Next one would be Fi. Fi, you need a very good reason to be playing this deck. One, he's not the premier aggro deck, and then second, he's not even the best ninja currently. So I think if you're playing, Fi, I feel like you just have to be either one, hating Dromai players, so you're just trying to take all them out, or two, you're playing a defensive variant and you're utilizing Fi because you have access to the Flamescale Furnace and Thaw. So if you're doing that, I think it's a legit strategy. Hats off to you. Just know your matchups, be ready to execute them, and it's a playable deck. However, if you're just playing old school, just race them down, fight, like, you're not beating Lexi. I don't care who you've lava burst for 32 or whatever you've done in one combat chain. I don't care. Fi is not favored into Lexi, period. He just isn't. Fi is extremely favored into Dromai, and he is unfavored into Icelander. And he's unfavored into Levia, I believe. Fi used to, brag about, I get like 7 value from my Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Well, Levia gets, Levia's headpiece can rip the lava burst right out of your hand. And Levia also has Carrion Husk, right? So your first lava burst is just null and void, literally. And there's just so much value on that axis. So if you're playing regular Fi, you're literally just trying to take all the Dromais out. And I don't understand that thought process. So if you're playing Fi, I'd be asking why you're not playing Katsu. And then if you're playing defensive, I wish you the best. And hopefully, you're along the same things as... Mask of Momentum is favored in Dromai. Absolutely. Yeah, Fi shits on Dromai. 100%. But it doesn't beat anything else, really. So if you just want to take out the Dromais, play 5. Icelander. Now, we've had this whole, it's basically become a meme now, where everybody put Icelander in C tier, and me included. I did say she was my dark horse in my defense. If you go back, the proof is there. She was one of my dark horses, and I was basically saying that people were going to underprepare for her, and there was a couple card pulls that she had access to, a couple cards in her card pool that she had access to that she could get a lot of value from. And that's kind of what we are seeing now. Now, sorry, Rhea, if you're watching this, but I'm gonna double down on the fact that Icelander is a C tier hero. I'm gonna double down on it. I'm gonna say that there won't be a single one in the top 8 at calling Birmingham. We'll see how that prediction holds up. And here's my thought process on it. In case, right? In Warmongers, fantastic additions to the deck, right? They are performing exponentially well. If you haven't seen it, everybody go check out Rhea's YouTube channel. I think it's called On Hit Effects or On Hit Effect. I think she just uploaded like a deck tech on the list that she took to both the Battle Hardened and took them down. So please go check that out if you're interested. She did a great job during the Battle Hardens and deserves every bit of it. But I have to stand by the fact that I believe Icelander is a C tier hero. And here's my justification. She presented something to the current meta that nobody had an answer to, right? The first Battle Hardened, I guarantee you, every single Lexi player she played just dumpstered, right? Just destroyed them, right? Because the whole game they couldn't flip their arsenal, right? Nobody could conceptualize what was even happening. I mean, we saw the finals. Literally, it was not a game. That was the most non-game I've ever seen on a streamed session of Flesh and Blood. It was just got blown out. Huge, right? And then the next one, right? We've seen some innovation. We've seen Trench. We've seen not arsenaling certain cards, right? Players are learning. Players are learning what to do, what not to do. And what I think, the number one reason you're playing Icelander is currently you're not being gatekept by Lexi, right? Because last format, Lexi was what held down the Icelanders. But I think once the Lexis add a couple Codex of Inertias or just adapt, put in a good amount of reps into Icelander and adapt their play style, I think that matchup goes back to 30-70 in Lexi's favor. I think it just does. I think if you don't get a huge blowout from Encase or Icebind or Warmongers, you're extremely unfavored, right? And I think the Lexi players are just having to adapt to those strategies in those situations. And once they do, that matchup becomes not as bad as it used to be because Bracers was huge in that matchup. But it'll go back to being unfavored for Icelander, which is very important. Everybody thinks Lexi will be the most represented deck. And if you're at best 50-50 into Dromai and probably 50-50 into Levia, and then you're unfavored in Lexi, it's kind of the same situation as Briar, where you're like, why am I playing this deck? What am I actually targeting? Because what she's targeting isn't existent, right? There's not going to be any Viscerize to pick on and give him a frostbite and watch him have a stroke, right? So that's why I think Icelander, I don't know. I think it's amazing innovation on Rhea's behalf, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Come calling Birmingham might be a little bit too early, but I can make. I hate to use the word guarantee in predictions, but I strongly, strongly believe that Icelander will be a bad pick for national season. I truly believe that. Um, I think it'll happen as soon as calling Birmingham, but it's only been a couple weeks, and the people may have not had enough time to get adequate reps into and develop a strategy. Kano, you have to ask yourself, why are you playing Kano over Icelander? Kano's going to be quick. Kano operates on an axis where you need to kind of be able to identify what you need to do within the meta. And the meta is very indecisive currently, right? We have a lot of stuff that are like popping up. We have a battle hardened one day where there's a bunch of Lexis in there. Then we have a PTI event where there's no Lexis, and like it's just all over the place. We got 14.5 Viscerize showing up to the first battle hard, and then it drops down to like 3 or whatever the case may be, right? So Kano just doesn't have a target right now. Other than that, I can't offer too much advice. Yeah, 2 illusionists, bad for Kano. Completely agree, Matt. Great point. Although this one is sketchy at best. Currently. Katsu is a very, very interesting pick. I think Katsu is actually a very good pick. And I'll explain my thought process. Because of cards like Flick Flack, you're one of the only decks in the format that within the same list can kind of utilize multiple strategies against Lexi. Right? You can kind of lean back, be very defensive if she puts you in a spot. You can present a whole bunch of on-hit effects where if she doesn't block, she gets 25 damage. Or you can play this mid-rangey, let me block with a Flick Flack and a blue for max value, and then just present a mass trigger. So with each hand, you can make those micro decisions and kind of come up with an optimal strategy within a game to combat Lexi. Icelander is kind of iffy. I think you really need to know that matchup and know what the Frostbite means, what it doesn't, and kind of adjust the threat level there. I will say that Arcane Lantern is not the way to go. You really do need double Kodachis just as a way to possibly push more damage. Unless you're going like a very slow, kind of grindy matchup. Into Dromai, I would say that you're slightly favored. A lot of Dromai players would probably say that no tier list, trying to avoid Ray's next super. Yeah. I'm so glad she made that video. I just think the community's had a good time with it. The whole joking around about Icelander being a C tier hero. It was a lot of fun. I saw her in the Battle Hardened, and I told her a couple times. I was like, imagine if you played a B tier hero. Imagine how much more of a margin you would win by. I mean, it was just a funny conversation. But really, congrats to her for the performance. It really was amazing. Katsu into Dromai, I'd say slightly favored, right? Although some Dromai players say they got it to 50-50. Kind of disagree, but I'm not exactly the expert on Dromai. So, although to close the stream out, I think I am going to play a couple Dromai games with the PTI winners Dromai list. Prodigy. he was nice enough to send the list. So I think I'm gonna play a game or two of Dromai after we get done with these heroes, and kind of go from there. So Levia is another interesting one. Oh, what I would be looking for in Katsu. I would spend most of my resources on the Lexi matchup, kind of decide whether I wanted to approach the matchup as a straight race, kind of how like the Poland team did in Pro Tour Baltimore, and decide whether you want to approach it that way or play a much more mid-rangey game plan. The aggro option seems a lot more viable now because she doesn't have bullseye bracers, right? It's a lot harder for her to extract extreme amounts of value from like endless arrow and stuff like that. So the aggressive approach will also pay dividends on the Dromai matchup, right? So that's the way that I would be leaning into. What cards could I add to even shore up the Dromai matchup even more? Does that mean more attack reactions, less things of that nature? Levia. So I'm not too familiar about what's going on. I'm keeping up with like the decks like Pat and Ethan and what they're playing. But that's about it. I haven't played too many reps. But the biggest thing, I'll be honest, I think Levia, your time is better spent on understanding matchups and playing the deck, like fundamental reps, rather than is this card better or worse. I'm gonna be honest. Literally the whole dance of going down to 13, stabilizing, finding a point where you get the most EV from transitioning to Blasphemet or Redeemed is literally it's very difficult, right? And you need to understand what you're trying to and which method that could change multiple times within a game, which method is the better option, right? I think that is where you kind of can get a lot more value from a pro. So unfortunately, I can't give you any recommendations on what to do into X Hero or whatever. So yeah, Lexi. I'm gonna be honest with you. Lexi. So when we first approached the meta, we were all worried about Lexi with a whole bunch of ice in it and how it was going to push all the aggro decks out. And the funny part is, I think that she's already pushed all the aggro decks out, except for Katsu. And I mean, there's still Runeblade players that want to play Runeblade. I'm not saying, I'm not saying she's the only one. I'm just saying that as far as that conversion rate goes, I mean, 14 Visceras in Cincinnati, and not a single one made top 8, right? There's a reason for that. And the simple answer is Lexi doesn't need the ice package to push out the aggro decks. All she needs to do is just fling arrows. Simple as that. Keep it fuseless, have a couple ice cards, nothing fancy. Like the most ice I've seen, in addition to the standard blue Winter's Bite and Frostlock and stuff like that, is like a red Ice Quake, right? Just enough to like throw into the deck during certain matchups. It provides actual threat density damage while also giving on hit effects and things like that. I think Starvo is going to win Birmingham. Yeah, we'll see. Dark. Good old Starvo. Those were the days. No, they weren't. They were not. Yeah, I mean, you just don't need. Yeah, just Winter's Bite, Red Arctic, Frostlock, and like at most, I've seen, Red Icequake was kind of enough to really push the envelope. You really didn't need the Ice Veins and stuff like that. You really just didn't. Which is huge, right? Because that means you're not sacrificing all the inconsistencies associated with running a much higher non-attack density. So you're hitting a lot more on your 3 of a kinds. because that's the risk that you always run. If you're trying to do the old carrying husk 3 of a kind play where you block with 2 cards and then pitch a blue or tunic counter or whatever into a 3 of a kind, if you draw a bunch of non-attacks, then it's not a carrying husk. You just like wasted a card is what you did. And so it's only good if you're drawing, fundamentally just arrows, right? And the more non-attacks that you add, the higher the chance that you'll brick on that situation. So I think normal ice package that we've been seeing for so long, plus red ice quakes, is as far as I would go with it to kind of hedge up the Dromai matchup, especially if everybody's going into the aggro version. Those couple frostbites can go a long way because they have to deal with those frostbites before they can activate Furnace and kind of leverage that resource that way. Icelander, I think you just need to be playing Trench, adapt, get a lot of reps in, understanding when you arsenal arrows, you're at a much lower liability than arsenaling non-attacks. And saving Snapdragons for the absolute, for just emergencies, right? Playing the arsenal and then, just snapping it is literally its only use is to unbrick like a Warmongers or a situation like that. And then also come up with an answer for Icebond, I believe, the one that freezes your but if a frozen arsenal, you can still flip it and play around it, so that's not even that big of a deal. But Trench getting around Warmongers and Encase is huge. They hit you with the Encase in response, trigger Trench, sink to the bottom. You can actually even use that resource for AB, and then your hero ability no longer matters, and you can still activate your bow and go about your day. So Trench will solve 2 of the 3 problems, and the other one you just have to be inconvenienced when it happens. But it's not that huge because you can just flip the card over for Icebond and go around it. So that's the idea for Lexi. Prism, I don't have a fucking clue. Simple as that. Simple as that. I just don't think anybody's solved Prism yet. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. I don't even, with so much Dromai going around, I don't know how you bring this deck. It's not like particularly favorable into Lexi. It doesn't beat up on Levia. You have scab skins, right? And you're like auto losing to Dromai. Like, who are you hoping to run into? Icelander? Like, is that it? Out of all the top decks, you're only beating Icelander? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I'll love for somebody in chat to tell me otherwise, because I'm all about learning about that. Rhinar is an interesting one. I think you honestly have to ask yourself why you're playing Rhinar over Levia. Levia just does so many more things, right? More armor, more explosiveness because you have access to more cards from the Banish Zone when you transform, right? She just does so many. I don't know why people are so confused. The way to solve Prism is to put her in the binder. Good one. That's a fact. That is a fact. God, 32 health? Man. Yeah, I don't know. But back to Rhinar. For Rhinar, I just don't think there's any reason to play him over Levia. Simple as that. The meta's not slow enough to actually extract an extreme amount of value from Intimidate. Is it good in certain spots? Sure. Are you good against Icelander? Sure. Are you good into Dromai? Yes. You get dumpstered by Lexi, and I think you're bad into Levia. And then you're bad into all the rogue aggro decks. So I just don't think the Rhinar is the pick. Just play Levia. Yeah. Definitely agree with chat on that one. So Riptide, Riptide's a funny one because he caught the stray bullet on the bullseye bracers. I don't know what to say. There's just no reason to play that hero unless you just like love him thematically and you just enjoy that hero's playstyle. Then you beat the top tables except Lexi. I don't think you beat Levia. I think you beat Icelander and Dromai with Rhinar. You literally auto lose into Lexi, and then you're losing into Levia. You're losing into Briar, Viserai, Katsu, Azalea. Oh, maybe not Azalea, but yeah. I don't see it. Like Levia has a much better matchup spread. Good into basically all of them except maybe Icelander because she has the fridge. Riptide, I just Tyler said Riptide is the hero we need. Yeah, but he's the hero we basically never got because previously, before Dusk Till Dawn came out, there was actually a valid reason because Riptide was very good into Lexi because he was like really explosive, could create a lot of frailty tokens, stuff like that. Like there was a good reason to kind of target her, and he was really good into like aggro decks. The problem is Riptide's favorite into Katsu. Sure, if you want to beat up on 4% of the meta, by all means. But Riptide just isn't doing it. He wasn't amazing at all before the Bullseye Bracers ban. He definitely didn't get better after it. Riptide top 16 Baltimore call. Yeah, like I said, he served a purpose before Dusk Till Dawn, but after the BNR and he got hit for no reason, I just don't see it. Now we go on to Boltyn. Boltyn's a literal head scratcher. It's kind of a tough one because you have a situation where nobody knows whether to go combo or Raiden. Okay? I believe the answer is Raiden. Because combo does not beat Dromai, combo does not beat Lexi, because if she just notices if you just eat the first arrow, she can just like keep a codex hanging over. She can flip over a codex and just keep it and like dangle it over you. Or same thing with the Arctic, right? The Arctic incarceration, whatever the case may be. Just dangle it in front of you, and then the second you say no blocks, she jams it and interrupts your combo turn. Icelander has Blizzard and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, so combo just isn't working into the top 3. And then Levia is going to shut you down with the 14,000 armor block. Nathan holding the secret TheCardGuyz Boltyn list for Vegas. That's false. That is false. Yeah, Warmongers is also good into the Sabres combo. Good point. I have looked so little into combo Boltyn that I didn't even make that connection, but you're 100% correct. There's just no reason to be playing combo right now. Simple as that. So now that we've identified we need to be playing Raiden, what are you beating with Raiden? Can you have like a good V for the Vanguard turn and a good Lumina turn and like have some explosiveness? Yes. But why jump through those hoops when you can just load an arrow, give it go again, and send it at people's face? Like it just doesn't. You're not beating Lexi with Raiden. You're not beating Dromai with Raiden. You're probably not beating Icelander with Raiden. And you're not beating any of the top decks with Raiden Boltyn. Can they win some games? Sure. But it ain't happening. I don't know. I do not think Bolton's in a good spot. He got some support, but I don't think it was enough, unfortunately. Azuri is a very interesting one. Azuri kind of you obviously just want to farm rangers all day. That's like the dream. Is you just play against a whole bunch of rangers and you go undefeated, and or you're just good like Sam and you can just clear house with it. But the second you run into a Dromai or an Icelander, it's it's not quite an auto lose, but it's pretty damn close. Um, Levia isn't particularly an amazing match, right? Because she can just negate two of your attacks just with armor. And the good thing about Levia's grasp of what grasp of shadows, grasp of darkness, whatever the new arm piece is, she can theoretically basically use it as in reaction speed, if you will, because it's not actually in reaction speed, but she can block in a manner where if you can pump it by 2 or something, she can cover the rest up with a grasp if she needs to. So it's very convenient the way it blocks like that in that matchup specifically. So I think Azuri is a great pick if you just want to beat up on some rangers, but I feel like Azuri is good into redline Dromai. I don't even think she's good against that. I mean, she's probably better into that, but it's by no means a like even close to 50-50 match. The matchup probably goes 10-90 to 30-70 or something. Maybe 40-60 at best. And yeah, you're losing to Icelander because you barely have any blues. The more if you go with a heavier blue package, then you're weaker into aggro because now your cards are slightly less efficient. And you're probably pretty good into Katsu. That matchup probably isn't horrible because you basically keep Katsu on at least a 4-card hand at all times, so the turns are kind of limited in like scope or how explosive he can be. Other than that, there's nobody really in the top tables that you're really targeting. So I think at Azuri, if you really want to roll the dice with Jim and say, look, I'm just going to target this deck, then I think it's a good pick, but just be ready to take these L's right here. Just be ready for it. I don't think there's anything in the card pool that can really solve that issue. I just don't. That does well. I mean, you could build any deck to beat any one deck probably, but are you going to sacrifice 13 matches to do it? That's the problem. Viserai. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think there's any reason to play Viserai. I put it in my tier list. I literally said that he was, there was no reason to take Briar or take him over Briar because of how he needs more cards to do what he is trying to do. Is he explosive? Sure. But basically, where Briar's power lies is she can utilize a 5-card hand most of the time, a 4-card hand, a 3-card hand, a 2-card hand, and a 1-card hand. Viserai can scale it all the way down to 3, but then it just immediately cuts off. And the only thing you can do with 2 cards is literally rattle bones into a swarming. If you have those 2 cards. And that's where the problem lies, right? To be at, the highest cap for Viserai. Yeah, I believe that there's no reason to play Viserai over Briar. I really do. I mean, I don't see it. You're doing things similarly on rate. You have a worse matchup into Icelander. I would say Briar is probably a little bit better into Lexi than Viserai is. You're worse into Katsu because you need to keep more cards. You're probably slightly better into Dromai, maybe. Probably. Yeah, I think just solely on the fact that you have to keep more cards. makes Briar way better than Viscera. But I will say, um, right, exactly. And there's also Warmongers, right? Like you, Viscera becomes like inoperable, and whereas Briar can say, okay, I'm under Warmongers. Well, here's E Strike 5, go again 4/4, right? And still present anywhere between 8 and 12 damage and be productive. But if you play Warmongers, I mean, he just literally has a stroke. So I just can't see Viscera in the current meta. I don't understand. I think everybody was so excited from Zach Bunn's top 8 in calling Baltimore that when the calling, the Battle Hardened Cincinnati happened, I think everybody's just excited to play it. Nobody played in a while. A lot of people go to what they're comfortable with. A lot of people just brought Viscera. But it was the second most played deck and had 0 conversion to top 8. And it has not top 8'd either event or either PTI event that I'm aware of. So not a very good performance from Viscera. Not what I would be looking into playing. If you love it, you love it. But it's just not to the optimal play right now. Vinsent, we've kind of already talked about Vinsent. Do you think Vinsent power level is way behind Vis or closer than we think? Well, comparing the two power levels in a vacuum, Vincent's not anywhere near Viscera. But with the aggressive takeover that is Warmongers, I think that Vinsent gets impacted a lot less than Viscera does. And like competitiveness in the meta, they're probably a lot closer than we thought. But in a vacuum, Vis is way better than Vinsent is, I believe. But as far as how they would perform in the meta, probably pretty similarly. Like I wouldn't expect anything like too drastically different from the two decks, if we're being honest. So that kind of closes it out. We already talked about Vinsent. I don't think I really need to rehash it. She does great when people don't fundamentally understand what she's trying to do and how to combat it. I think the pummel inclusion is very smart from Team Runaways. It basically says, okay, if they don't interact with me, I'm gonna pummel them and get damage through and discard. I think that's very intuitive and a good breakthrough on them. I don't think that's the answer. I've never seen a deck where, because let's face it, all of us when we build decks, who hasn't? Everybody in here has built a deck and then asked themselves, what if we had pummel? Right? Who's done that? Who's doing that in chat? Where you're building a deck and you're like, but what if I add 2 pummels? We've all been there, right? And I'm not saying that it's bad in Vinsent. What I'm saying is I'm hard-pressed to believe that that's the answer everybody's been looking for. Is it something that's included? Sure. I'm all for it. Like, the math makes sense. She can't utilize all her cards. Give her a reaction that she can dump it into in the extract value. Math checks out. Does it add even more inconsistency to the deck? Absolutely it does. I put pummel in everything, see? That's absolutely correct. So that's kind of the overview. I just like I said, I wanted to go over each hero and kind of like what I would be doing if I was going to a battle hardener or calling in the near future. But obviously with the calling this weekend, things are going to, kind of drastically adapt, if you will. And we'll close the discussion with final points on like what my prediction of the calling Birmingham will be, and then we'll get into a couple of Dromai games, and we'll go from there. So currently, I believe, like I said earlier, I think Icelander will have a poor performance at the Calling Birmingham. I'm gonna say none in the top 8. I'll say that there'll probably be a couple Lexis, and there'll probably be a Levia, and then I think there'll be a couple Dromais. I think whatever number of Lexis are there, there'll be an equal number of Dromai. So if there's 2 here, there'll be 2 there. If there's 3 here, there'll be 3 there. And then there'll be 1 Levia, and then it'll be a miscellaneous aggro deck. It could be Briar, it could be Katsu. I'm gonna say Katsu. I think that's the better way to go. I don't think there'll be any Bravo because I just like I said, on paper, Bravo should be doing extremely well in this meta, but he is not for some reason. And that's kind of my prediction. But my biggest takeaway is I don't think Icelander is going to be converting as good as she is going forward. I really don't think so. Okay. So let's go ahead and once again, like I said, we're going to be playing Austin, the fellow who won the PTI event in Chicago, aka Prodigy. This is his list. Appreciate it for sending it my way, and we are going to just play some games on Talishar. Kind of close it out. Kind of chat with you guys. Ask any questions you want. I'm all ears. We had an interesting kind of discussion on the podcast that we recorded about being a specialist. So I'm trying to branch out and kind of, I'm trying to try new things is what I'm attempting to do. Okay, he doesn't have a Boltyn tab, so we're doing this live. We are doing this live. So we're going to do Seeker's Mitt because these don't really apply. And, never mind. Never mind. Do you think Redline / Mara Dromai is the stronger build right now? I do. I do believe the more aggressive Dromai list is correct. Okay, we got us a Lexi. I know he's got a Lexi button. Oh, and it gave us 60 cards. I'm going to hope it's right. And we're going to run it. It's not right because he has Nulrin selected. Maybe this part's right. It seems legit. I wouldn't run those cards into Lexi. Run it. Okay. So chat, small disclaimer. I'm not an illusionist player, but we're going to do this. We're going to figure this out live, okay? So straight off the rip, my knee-jerk reaction is we obviously need to interact with Seeker's Mitts and kind of play the mirror guy. That's what I'm thinking. Other than that, I'm not entirely sure what we were doing after. I don't know what the priority is here on what to keep. I would assume that the Fate Foreseen is probably the lowest priority. So we'll pitch it first. To gain... we don't need this early, so we will put it on bottom. Okay, and here we have... Out of these two, we are against Lexi. I guess we would prioritize the dust up over the snatch. So we will pitch the snatch. And then we'll pass priority here and see what they do. Okay. That's good. Oh my God. What are you trying to do? I'm passing, bro. Okay, so we have a heavy ice package because we have a yellow winter's bite. Okay. So here, I guess we'll go and attack with Mirror Gun to go and get a card. If he gives us a card, we will go ahead and jam Dust up here, maybe. Right? We will probably get armor. Is that worth it? Probably not, but that's a good card to get out of it. So I guess this is the question. If he's blocking with pre-med here, which is really fucking good, what's this other card? So, I don't... Math-wise, it's very bad to throw this Dust up, but I think because he's blocking with a pre-med here, like, what is that card? I think we got to send it. I really want to send it. We're going to send it. And we'll at least get some armor here, no matter what it is, but we might get more. Okay, we made a pretty good call. We'll go and transform that. So we got an Ashwing, dealt 4 damage, and we have a Mirga on board. Turn 0. It's pretty productive. That's pretty productive. All right, chat. I don't know what the fuck to do. Send it. We did send it. I'm not sure how to evaluate because I'm just not used to the deck. I'm not sure how to evaluate the payoff of Dust Up versus Snatch. I assume, this is my thought process, we're in the earlier stages of the game, so the value extrapolated from an Ashwing earlier in the game should be higher than, say, a Snatch. So, and the Snatch would have drawn an Uvia, which is not like the hottest thing in this matchup. So, yeah, we definitely take this Boltyn shot all day. He was hedging against fatigue here, which gives us a slight advantage to go faster rather than slower, because he did load up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 70 cards. So that does mean that we need to play with some urgency, which is our plan anyway, because we are playing the more aggressive list, kind of like so yeah. Is there an interaction with like Flamescale Furnace and like Frostbite? I don't know. So knee-jerk reaction, the only play I see is making all the Ash will ever need for the entire game. And then we always lead with the Ashwing in case he has Popper. That's A-okay. Okay, we're going to put the dragons up front. Okay, he's going to have to burn snaps. Unless he's just going to send an arrow into Azalea. Okay, so target is me. We kind of need to respect it. Although we really don't. Warmongers is not going to extract a whole lot of value, I believe, in this situation. So I'm kind of feeling Kyloria into CNC off the blue, and then arsenling the Azalea. So he's literally just trying to fatigue me. Okay, well I guess this is my game to lose then. So yeah, we'll just start with a Kyloria. And we will go ahead and send the Azuri. He should have a popper because he kept 2 cards like that, right? Yep, he has the popper. And that's A-okay. Maybe there's an argument to where I should just CNC because it was kind of telegraphed. But we will go from there. We're definitely going to arsenal the dragon here. Okay, this is pretty good. We've already played a 1 cost as a response to Channel Lake Frigid. Pitch. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yep. No. He's probably going to throw that into Kyloria, if I had to assume. I'm going to elect to just play the rake out. The question is, I'll pitch, it'll make 1, so I'll be at 1 ash. We could just do the flame skill trick and play the other one. These cards are too valuable to block with because he's playing so slow. We'll just take it. So here we can go. Have the ability to furnace. I guess there's no reason to do it here right now. Then we can send an Ashwing. And if he has a popper, we'll just furnace here. And if he doesn't, we'll play the Azuri at the end. And I think in this situation, because he is starting to take damage, he's trying to make a move. I think furnacing the rake out is actually better than playing the Azuri. So that way we're set up to just make a play. We can block some, play the Azuri, and swing out because he's actually trading damage now due to the hand. Not sure if that's correct, but that's where the thought process is. Okay, we have a blue here, so that's great. Okay, so he has a bunch of Arctics. Okay, so if this hits, you can't pitch or play cards with base 0 cost, okay? Which is this card, which will be... Okay, so this very easily messes up our entire turn. Interesting. There's no way. I'm just trying to think of possible lines here because we're not going to be able to double pitch any reds. I think we just have to block this out. Like this. And then when he jams that, we can pitch these twos to play that and then kind of get some value that way. This denies the ponder token. Or he doesn't even play it. And we get even more value. Okay, so if this is the case, we'll go for the highest. So I want to check and see if the coast is clear for the Kylori here. We'll go 1. We do need to keep in mind that we'll be at 0 ash though, but we have a good board state. Okay. That's fine too. So we'll pass and we will arsenal Kylori. So far, the poppers we've seen has been Battering Bolt and Down and Dirty and Death Touch. We've seen one of each. We do have multiple Arctic Incarcerations. Not entirely sure what he's doing here. Okay, we will be at 4. So at 4, there's no way that we can possibly like play anything actively. So I'm actually in favor of just jamming the sigils here. I'm not sure like what this game plan is, but this is very odd. I've never played this matchup on this end, and like I'm already running into like very awkward things. So bear with me, but we are trying. We have to pass here, of course. We can't really do anything because we have 3 frostbites, but oh, we should have furnaced. Oh, you're right. See, that's my lack of Dromai there. Yep, I played the sigil so I can furnace, get an extra ash. That is my fault. I just need a chroma, bro. Let me get a chroma. Another one, bro? Bro. All right, we're about to get all the ash. We're going to go again. Pew, pew, pew. See if he's got a popper, so that fixes the ash problem. And we didn't have to really pay an opportunity cost associated. This is a very weird game, chat. Like, very, very weird game. Sure, get another popper. So we're just gonna work our way down these Ashwings and kind of like soak them up, and kind of save Kyloria for a good Chromite turn. Is kind of what I'm thinking. Because we have so much Ash, I don't hate playing Uvia here. I really don't. Especially because they're playing so slow. God, we've seen so many damn Arctic incarcerations, bro. Now I can actually play the game. Actually play the game. I'm just having a hard time understanding like what this strategy is going to be. Been there, done that. Okay, we got Voltaire. Drill shot. I'm assuming he's gonna send into the Azalea. Just a guess. Since you really don't want me to have nice things. Oh, it chose me. This is pretty good. We want to play this. Play this, and then we just jam dragons if he lets the first one go without paying too much on. And then we can finish here. If we can keep this, we'll let this hit. My knee-jerk reaction here is to play Uvia, attack with an Ashwing, attack with an Ashwing. If he doesn't pop, then we can play Kyloria as well with the one floating. And then attack with Kyloria if he blocks it, whatever. And if he doesn't pop it, then we can do a dust up afterward. If he does pop the Kyloria, then we play Sigil and the Arsenal dust up. That's the line that I'm thinking. The question is, does he actually get it down and dirty with this? Like the way he's been playing? I don't think that's crazy. He did get it down and dirty. Okay, that changes our game. Well, if you are going to get a down and dirty and pass it to me, then what I'm going to do is play Uvia, pitching 2 reds. And then... So I want to play the passing, right? Like I really want to. I really want to play the passing to go ahead and get it clear, but we need to clear this down and dirty. It's the only problem. Fuck it, we'll play it. There they are. We did it. We did it. Now we just go in. Now we literally just go in. It's a nice down and dirty you got there. Are you going to send it into the Uvia? So we did get the passing. Okay, let's go ahead and start with Dromai. Attack with Dromai. Dromai will be popped. Dromai. Attack with Dromai. Dromai gets popped. I was about to say no shot. He's got a third. Maybe he was thinking that I was going to attack with Levia and he kind of like saves it. No, we could attack with Levia, but I don't know. Seems a tad risky. He's not going to be able to have a huge crackback, so that was very productive there. We'll take that. He's probably going to send that into Kyloria, if I had to guess. Yep. But that was a lot of poppers that we went through with those Chromais. So he has, theoretically, 1 battering bolt, 1 down and dirty, and a couple death touch. What's top aiding Birmingham? It'd be you, Lucas, if you were going. But I think it will be Lexi or Dromai. I'm leaning more. I think this will be the first calling level event Dromai wins. That's my guess. Yep. Let's start with this, pitching this, go and trigger furnace, this. I guess there's no reason to actually give up that information, but you know. Swing it with the ash wing. Or like Brody likes to say, hit you with a baby. Hit you with a baby. Baby. Fatiguing Dromai with Lexi. Well, stream. I guess this is this is one of my first times playing Dromai, so if it doesn't beat me, I don't know who you're getting with it. I don't know who's getting got. We'll go ahead and send the Uvia. We're ahead by so much. Why not? And then we'll just bank the rabble, of course, because no reason to give up the go again. We got options. Don't flip over ice card, please. One time. I don't know why, but I have a strange feeling there will be a Kano in top 8. I mean, it would be cool, but that's a good point. Yeah, if he doesn't have popper for Kylori, he doesn't have one for Uvi and missed out. Yep. And I realized that on my second line, right? I was like, well, if he didn't pop any of those, he's probably not popping that. That's a very good point. No. We have a frost We'll discard Snatch. I don't know what he's throwing. What is the point of Art of War if you're just gonna winter bite me, bro? Like, yes, I would love to make an Ash. Thank you. Codex, you got me. Maybe the Frostbites will buy him 15 minutes on the clock. That's a fact. This doesn't affect... Oh, okay. So there's the concession. Yeah, I'm not sure what that strategy particularly was. It was very interesting to say the least. But I think on the Lexi side of things in that matchup, you have to approach the matchup with at least some sort of urgency. You don't want to let the Dromai player have that much agency and just. I mean, I was able to create. I probably created anywhere between like 7 to 10 ash at literally no cost. And that's not, you don't want to let Dromai do that. There's no way. Okay, Prism, supposedly this is like a very free matchup, but we'll see. Oh, Prodigy. Deliver me to the win. They left it. Good job, Prodigy. We won now. We've only played one game. We spent a lot of time talking about meta stuff and the calling and stuff like that. So you just missed a very weird Alexi game. Very odd. He tried to kill me via Arctic incarcerations, and yeah, I did not die. Oh, just Arsenal Chromite. That's a good point. Arsenal Chromite, get the action point and start just taking out Spectres. Oh, Lord. I don't know Dromai enough to do this one, but thank God Prodigy has a button. Whew. What would I do without it? I'm assuming the null rune is correct. I want to think the null rune is correct. It's gotta be correct. He's going first, so it's 100% correct. Yeah. Okay, so we just have this. I'm assuming that is for just a higher blue density. Makes sense. Okay, we have Phoenix Flame for all that. Yep. So we definitely need to make it a priority to pitch this with Furnace to keep it in the deck so that when we Flame Call, I at least know that. A be good. Who would have known? Who would have known? Okay, we have an Ice Eternal. We have no way to trigger the Frostbite on our turn. Super unfortunate. He's going to make 2 here. Okay, what's our turn look like under 2 Frostbites? What? Did he shoot the 2 at himself? What actually happened? I never got the chance to AB. Oh, it wasn't fused? No. What? Okay, so I think the way to go about this would be, let's go ahead and play the, because we can't lead with the Azuri. So I want to start with a rabble, pitching here and here. It leaves us a little bit up for AB. And also we have the option to play this. Not entirely sure I will. Just depends. Okay, we have Emeritus. Obviously, we're going to AB1 here. Uh, yeah, make Ash pass. Really? So you probably would have pitched the Rabble and the Phoenix. I don't think there's any drastic need to pay for this Blizzard. I could pitch that and get an Ash, but I get you. All right, it's on them. Sure. At least their turn is pass. That's pretty hot. Okay. So I know I'm just supposed to be prioritizing dragons no matter what. Break the Embers is obviously target number one. I just don't know if I need to be like highly. So how do we make the most Ash and just get a bunch of AB? Let's just jam the Rake to get that going. And I'll pass on the lair, and if he does any funny business, we can activate Furnace in response. Billowing Kyloria. Okay, that's a way different. Oh, he can kill the Ashwings. I knew that. That's terrible. To kind of shut down the turn. I got you. We're learning here, chat. We are getting an illusionist education. Yep, he pings the dragon. The dragon doesn't resolve. Now we have to pitch for AB. Because we have no action points. Let's go ahead and pitch the billowing. And we'll get the Kyloria out of there too. Just make more Ash. And he responds. That's smart. Definitely lost on that turn cycle, but that's just my inexperience. Yeah, I mean, I just passed turn. Like, there's no way I can waste cards, right? And so he gets priority. Now, this card's good. That much I know. So how do we play that and play it effectively? Well, we can pitch the 2 reds to play it, and then we have the 1 for Furnace to kind of just jam. Because he has to respond. Yep. This has to happen first, which we will. We have to furnace now. Which he waning moons, yep. Because if I don't, I can't pay through the frostbite. Well, I can. Okay, so I'm supposed to hold there. Yep. Supposed to hold there. That was definitely premature on that one. I think Empress is a great deck for Birmingham. Oh, I'm correct. Yeah, because you have to. If I don't do it, then I can't ever furnace because of the frostbite. Okay. So here we pay the 2. Right. Okay, and then in this case, we'll go ahead and go. We never attack with the Themai, right? Is that pretty safe to assume? Let's go ahead and jam this down too. Bing, 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 bing. Are we supposed to never attack with the Mai, or are we supposed to just send it? Like, I've seen no indication of any wounded bulls. Red Aether Hail, we'll send it. Glad we didn't lose that value. This hand does some things. Okay, he's going to throw that into the Mai. I have to assume he fuses with nothing because there's no reason to fuse. Just giving me information. Okay. So we can go. I like pushing the damage if he lets me. We can now just jam. Blaze. And then after this one, I'll start with Azraeli, then the Ashwing, and then Kyloria. Then we'll just keep this guy in Arsenal if he takes damage on the way down. Bing, bing. So we did get the popper on the Azraeli. That's a-okay. No reason to furnace here. At least we have the information. There are poppers in existence. Okay, we have the Frost Hex. I'd rather keep the card. Because we're going to have to push here. Very sketchy that he kept a card. I think that I'm 90% sure that means he arsenaled blue and then kept a popper. So I guess that means that we need to kind of prioritize Dromai here. Are we AB? Yeah, we have to furnace here. Doesn't make any sense not to. Oh wait, we don't furnace there because I shouldn't furnace there because I'm getting the Phoenix Flame. Duh. That's my fault. Yep, that was my boo-boo. Oh, did he blast the Dromai? Is that what happened? That means he has to have a popper, right? And he'll pop color you. Yep, that's the card he held. But I think we had to do it that way anyway. We have a lot of ash, but I don't think the game's going to be long enough to actually extract value from Uvia. Another one. See, I'm learning left and right from Prodigy. He's dropping the knowledge. Summer, it was great to see you as well. Speaking of America, oh, I'm just too impatient, Prodigy. I'm sorry. I'm too impatient. Oh, wait. It wasn't fused. We take those. Okay, we have plenty of ash. We don't have to worry about it. Let's go ahead and get them. Yeah, I was gonna AB one for the fuse, but it wasn't fused. So let's just get rid of this one. I got so much to learn on this deck. So much to learn. And I'm gonna be honest, I do not like playing this deck on Tower Shore. Like there's just too much going on, and especially this match against Icelander. Like there's just so much going on down here. It's hard to like visualize what's happening. But I'm just not used to board states too, so that's something that I just need to like adjust to. Obviously, we can't attack, which is super unfortunate, but it'd be like that. Okay. Well, I'm 90% sure this is correct. Is there anyone that we're sinking? Channel Lake will still be active. So there's no way we could play Mirror Guy that we couldn't attack, which probably okay. But do we want to take damage for that play? That's the question. Armor bot. Oh, you wanted to slow it down. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know if with life total solo that actually makes sense. It's not worth getting an extra mirror guy down. Okay, we can force the action on this. This is no longer as good, so we'll end up pitching that. Not entirely sure. We do have to be careful. Okay, so we're not gonna have Chain Link Frigid now because there's no way he's gonna get 2 ice in the pitch zone. That's good for us. I don't think we AB this because we're really just trying to get the Mai down and force a decision. Yep. So this will first force the action on her. We have 2. We already showed the blue. Not sure if that's gonna change her decision making. We are at 10, so we do have to be careful at least. Okay, so she's giving priority on the Mai. That's good for us. We want to AB as much as possible right now. Okay. And now she's going to pop the mirror gun. Right? That's the only reason she would just pass priority there. Yep. I'm starting to understand the matchup. You race down to establish board state. And then you slow the game down. And just try to grind out with the board state that you've established. Got it. Got it. These poppers are putting in work. This is not the most. This is not the easiest matchup for a new Dromai player. Holy shit! There's so many priority windows and like nuances. Very, very interesting. We have snaps here that stayed in Arsenal. He had a popper. She has armor. We kind of need to force it. I'm going to go ahead and push here with the dust up. That's actually risky. Because if they can make a frostbite, we can't do anything. So if we didn't AB1, then we could take that line. But we also probably die if we send it. So let's go ahead and send us a... Well, let's go and play a... Azalea. We'll play the Azalea because it probably won't die. Okay. Blowing it. Oh, we landed right into that one. We should have attacked with Mirror God first, but that's okay. Okay. At least we know she can't make well, I guess it doesn't matter now. Yeah, I was thinking snapping the dust up, but then if she can make a frostbite, we're stuck because we don't have anything. I wanted to lead with that so we didn't have to worry about the popper. But Hmm. Okay, this doesn't really have a lot of value in this matchup. This is a lot of AB, but we got the blues. And we got the AB. She has a cold snap. A cold snap. I like AB4. Do it that way. And here what we can do is we can lead with the dust up and snap it. We just need to put a little bit of pressure on. Okay, we got a card, and the cold snap it doesn't do anything here, so that's good at least. Okay, looks like they're setting up for the kill turn. I don't know what they're doing on the 2-card hand, though. It's the only thing I'm not 100% sure about. Not the best arsenal, but... You asked for a prodigy. We got the sigil. Okay, so we're being bitten. Okay, I like ditching dust up because it's not doing what we want to do. So we'll say no, get rid of dust up. And then we lead with burn them all. And we have the sigil as backup. We want to present some damage so we can. So next, I'm thinking attack with Mirror Guy. Or we actually send this to say, look, you can go now or not. Yeah, I actually like getting cards out and then. So let's do. Let's do that. This will be lethal, so it kind of puts her in a position where it's like, do it now or whatever. getting blocks. This makes me happy. Send this one because it doesn't have Phantasm. It also triggers burn them all. Oh, we're getting a lot of cards. Okay. So because we're getting all the cards, we still have 3 Ash Wings, and this is coming in for what's the target? Oh, he's blowing up Mirror Guys. What's happening? All right, so that means he has to Metacarpus node the Mirror Guy, right? Because it has 4 life. That's a blue Ice Bolt. So he's going to Metacarpus into the Mirror Guy, which is very good for us. It will end our turn, which means we need to go ahead and play Sigil before the False Bite resolves, if I'm reading this correctly. Right? Ice Bolt from Arsenal. Mirror Guy was targeted. Jam Sigil. Go up on life. He's going to end our turn. And we'll be A-okay. I'm not sure if this is correct to keep this. We do need to go against Source, and this is not the worst one. So I'm going to elect that we don't. And it's also a 1 card, so we can kind of get Furnace rolling. Oh, this is real good. This is a good one. Let's go ahead and get this going. Did we want to Arsenal? I mean, I feel like we don't need to be furnacing. We have 6. We have 6 Ash. Am I missing something? I'm going to Arsenal the... Destroy target X aura tokens or aura. So he's trying to blow up the burn them all? Right? That's the only aura we have? Okay. To that hero equal to the... This doesn't even target the Ashwing. Doesn't that mean we just win? Yeah, it says target hero. So we can just attack with the other... The other Ashwings, and we just get there, right? Because we can even rake in the end and make a bunch more. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So no Arsenal. All we need is go again. We know a Snatch is up there, so I'm actually going to hold these cards because this is guaranteed go again. And we have no threat on the board, so we just need to secure go again. I think we're fine. I'll go ahead and sand cover this then. probably better just a furnace there, and then AB2. And then Arsenal the sync. I'm just trying. The only way we lose, right, is if we don't have go again. But once again, I'm not so familiar with the deck that know that you always draw go again. Maybe that's a Briar thing that I'm contemplating. Yeah, of course you draw a bunch of fucking go again. Yeah, I realize that now, chat. That definitely was just a but we definitely leave with Dromai here, no questions asked. And we should just send it. I don't see any reason why we would not. What up, Damien? I think this just wins, right? Because we have 2 action points, and we're just going to push, push, push. Oh, sand cover is good. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I didn't think about that. Oh, you guys are teaching me so much. All right, we have an extra action point. We go ahead and send the Ash Wings, and we should be able to close it out with a snap. We can even like rake a bunch more in. And we even have an extra action point so we can actually play rake and keep going with 3 more, but that should do it. That should do it. All right, chat. So, lessons learned. You're like third time ever playing Dromai. Don't do it against Icelander, chat. We struggled, but we you know, you guys were helping a lot in chat. Really do appreciate it. Once again, just trying to kind of see what Illusionist is all about. I'm going to be playing it over the next couple weeks, spending some time on it. I think it's a real contender for Nationals. Obviously, I have a long way to go with the deck. I don't claim to be proficient in any way, shape, form, or fashion, especially in that matchup. So many intricacies with that matchup specifically that, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I just don't know the ins and outs and the priority windows that are super specific. And I've never really interacted with a piece like Furnace before, so it's just going to take some reps, right? Despite our best efforts, we won. Great way to put it, Brendan. Great way to put it. We tried and we got there. Undefeated on Dromai, right? Definitely. I mean, we are, but you know, we had a Lexi try to fatigue us, and we struggled through a Dromai. But I mean, it is kind of like I probably made at least, this is being nice to myself, like I probably made anywhere between 4 to 6 like decent size mistakes in that matchup, and we still got there. So I mean, Dromai's good. Like there's just no there's no doubt about it. I really think that she's going to be a top performer in calling Birmingham, and I'm looking forward to playing a lot more reps with it and learning a lot more about the deck. And yeah, that's going to close it out for the stream. I really do appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. As far as events coming up that I'll be at, I will guaranteed be at least Nats, right? And then I will also be at Battle Hardened Atlanta. Also thinking about going to a couple more Battle Hardens. Not sure which ones. Not going to be able to make Columbus my daughter's birthday weekend, so not going to be able to do that one. But Um, let's see. There's a couple more in the back, and like, I think there's one in. I'm trying to think. Orlando's a bit of a stretch, but the wife really loves Disney World, so we might be able to swing that one. Just depends on how the days line up and all that. Yeah, EU Dromais. You got like what, Jamie and um, a bunch of people over there that really spend a lot of time on that deck. So really looking forward to watching the coverage. Also, me and Josh did a little skit, a little 1 to 2 minute skit for like the ad break kind of thing. Be on the lookout for that during the Calling Birmingham stream. It's pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. We enjoyed making it anyway. So once again, thanks everybody so much for being here. I really do appreciate it, and I will see everybody next Wednesday. And hopefully, I'll have a lot more Dromai matches under my belt, and I'll kind of break down how the progress is going and go from there. But thanks